It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe, and welcome to the Friday evening edition of ZiFM Sport. We're building up to what should be an absolutely fantastic weekend in the world of sport. Lots of great matchups to look forward to, especially in the world of football, where Manchester United host Tottenham Hotspur in the pick of the fixtures. But before that, we'll have some local sports news updates as well as international sports news. The team is here to deliver a crackerjack edition of ZiFM Sport, your favorite sports show. Christine Midzi, our producer Sean Tafirenyika, Barry Manandi, and my name is Mike Madad. Unfortunately, Alois Munjira unable to join us on this edition. He should be back on Monday. Now, let's take a look at the headlines starting on the home front, where the director of cricket at Zimbabwe Cricket, Hamilton Masakadza, believes the launch of the NPL, that's the National Premier League, will be the game changer in their quest to turn the national team into a competitive outfit. In international sport, Sia Kolisi will lead out a team in national colours for the first time since lifting the Webb Ellis Cup, as he leads the green side out in the Castle Lager Springbok Showdown at Newlands on Saturday, a match pitting prospective Springboks against each other.
In Around the World in 60, we'll begin in the United Arab Emirates, where Rohit Sharma's fluent 70 and a blistering stand between Kieran Pollard and Hardik Pandya powered Mumbai Indians to a 48-run win over the Kings 11 Punjab in Abu Dhabi. In France, Novak Djokovic continued his dominant start to the French Open with a ruthless straight set against Lithuanian number 66, Ricardas Berankis, in the second round. And in the United States, Miami Heat stars Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo are listed as doubtful for Game 2 of the NBA Finals against the LA Lakers.
And then it's into the beautiful game where Bayern Munich forward Robert Lewandowski was named UEFA Men's Player of the Year for 2019-2020 season to beat off competition from Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne and Bayern Munich teammate Manuel Neuer. That announcement made in tandem with the Champions League group stage draw. Very entertaining groups drawn there. We'll talk you through them in the second half of the show. In the Premier League, Manchester United will be looking to make it 4 successive wins in all competitions when they continue their 2020-21 Premier League season at home to Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday. In La Liga, Barcelona face Sevilla in their third match of the season, and the clash will see 2 of the favourites for the title going head-to-head. Now, the Serie A is our last destination in the beautiful game, where in a highly anticipated first clash between 2 former stars of Italy and AC Milan, now chasing coaching glory, Gennaro Gattuso's Napoli test their Scudetto ambitions at Andrea Pirlo's Juventus on a Sunday. All makes for a very entertaining show as we build up to a crackerjack weekend. Here's Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello. Señorita, it's Fire Friday.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Now, if you know someone who's missing out on the action here on ZiFM Stereo, tell them they can listen in to the show on YouTube. It's available there for your pleasure. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter as well, at ZiFM Sport, or even in our individual capacities. Let's get into the news. And usually we don't give out a lot in terms of exciting developments, but this evening we are, because Zimbabwe Cricket has delivered. Their director of cricket, former Chevron star Hamilton Masakadza believes the launch of the new National Premier League, that's the NPL, will be the game changer in their quest to turn the national team into a competitive outfit. Just a couple of days, we saw the pictures come out on social media as Zimbabwe Cricket launched this brand new initiative, which will see the resuscitation of club cricket around the country. Let's hear from Zimbabwe Cricket's Director of Cricket, Hamilton Masakadza, as well as the Zimbabwe Cricket Chairperson, Tavengwa Mukuhlani.
Our club cricket platform is the platform where we get an opportunity for the young up-and-coming cricketers to mix with all the experienced guys. There's going to be games in each and every part of the country, and we're going to ensure that the game is spread and that everyone gets a game and everyone gets represented.
The launch of the National Premier League is the beginning of a new journey that I believe will see new cricketers coming through. That should be the mark of development for cricket in the country, and we should see it run professionally, and selection must be done without bias.
Now, the NPL, that's the National Premier League, not to be confused, guys, with the Castle Premier Soccer League, which is the top tier of domestic football in the country, will actually be a league program that will run until November. Action getting underway this weekend, and the top team at the end of the marathon will win not only the NPA title, which is a floating trophy, they'll also receive $10,000. We have to give them, Barry, the pat on the back that they deserve for at least launching something that has got the intended goal of resuscitating club cricket at a competitive level in Zimbabwe.
For sure. I mean, for two reasons: that we haven't had much cricket locally. Obviously, the domestic competition was held up by the COVID pandemic, and so consequently, we haven't had much cricket for a very long time. So to have a competition like this, in that sense, helps big time. There's also the added element that because it's such an expansive competition, you're likely to unearth a few rare gems because all these teams can't be filled by players who are already in and around the national setup. So there are going to be some youngsters that will be blooded in, and from a development perspective, it really works out.
Well, let's take a look at the participating teams. A couple of teams from Bulawayo, that's Amakosi as well as Queens. No doubt where Queens is going to be based. I'm sure it's Queens Sports Club. We have Great Zimbabwe Patriots from Masvingo, Harare Kings from Harare, who are joined by their counterparts Takashinga as well as Rainbow. And then there's also Gladiators. So the majority of teams coming out of Harare. Kwekwe is represented by the Midwest Rhinos. And then we're going to have, of course, the team that's playing out of the east of the country, that is Easterns from Mutare. So it's a nice spread, isn't it, Chris, in terms of the National Premier League being national?
Definitely. It's a nice spread, and what you're going to be able to see then is, first of all, what we've always talked about, that we want to see sport played right across the country, which is what they've managed to do with this. If the matches are going to be held in these different areas of the country, it's going to be bringing in more eyes to cricket. And I think as well, it's brilliant for people who live in those areas to be able to see the cricket, for kids to be able to see, and also to create that ladder that we always talk about of what happens after schoolboy cricket. And this is definitely one of the pathways, especially because it goes right across the country, creating a broad base of opportunity.
And now, Barry, I know you are big on the future, not just in terms of short-term planning, but also progressive planning, as it were. Is this something that you want to see grow in the next 5 to 10 years? Because we go back to the 90s, to the 80s, we had Kadoma Sports Club, we had Bunket, we had Beatrice, we had so many places playing cricket. Marondera, there was cricket being played out in Marondera. Do you want to see the National Premier League move in that direction, where it's not just going to be the preserve of these teams that have started the league, but we're going to see a gradual expansion? Case in point being, for example, in the world of football, we have seen the MLS, which started off with just a few franchises, but over the last decade, it has grown as football has spread across the United States.
Well, that expansion is a sign of growth, isn't it? So we certainly hope that it'll go from strength to strength. Already it's a good start because you look at Kwekwe Sports Club will see action, Masvingo Sports Club and Mutare Sports Club are all going to see action. That add to that the traditional venues of Harare Sports Club, Queen Sports Club, Takashinga and Old Hararians who are already hosting cricket matches. That shows that there is the proliferation of the game into areas in which it wasn't necessarily a staple. So to see week in, week out action in those locations is great. As we go from year to year, hopefully we then start seeing those sports clubs that you mentioned getting teams and then also seeing action as the game is spread across the country. And as we spread on it wider, there's a good chance that at some point we're going to unearth that rare gem that can make it all the way into the chevrons and be the difference maker.
Now, Chris, if we are to take the game truly national and increase the participating towns and have more teams in this league, the one thing that must happen is that the nation has got to embrace the National Premier League. Mm-hmm. Corporate Zimbabwe has got to embrace the National Premier League because I take a look at the announcement made by Zimbabwe Cricket. They say that they are the ones that are sponsoring this competition. So it's a huge capital outlay. There has to be a time when this thing has got to sustain itself.
It's got to sustain itself, but I think what Zimbabwe Cricket are doing at the moment is to prove the concept, which is incredibly important if you're then going to pitch to corporate Zimbabwe. If it's been done and you have structures and opportunities for the corporates to come on board, I think after this first initiative, this first round of it, I think what they need to do is to get their commercial department organized and to then go into corporate Zimbabwe and to pitch and to get that funding if they are truly going to expand the competition and also increase that prize money, increase the opportunities for these cricket players individually as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to present the concept, but they always need to remember that they need to go a step further and actually activate the opportunity and make sure that they get great commercial value from the product they've created.
Well, the concept sounds new, but vaguely familiar. It's 45 over cricket. It's club cricket, Barry. But I'm thinking, hang on, did we not try something similar at franchise level? Did we not try the Stanbic T20 competition back then when Alistair Campbell, I think, was heavily involved with Zimbabwe cricket? Why did that fail? And what are the chances that corporate Zimbabwe will lap up this new competition? What has changed?
Look, that's an entirely lengthy conversation in itself. But in summary, I believe that the previous iteration, the T20 competition, was plagued by its genesis in the sense that it kicked off heavily leaning on the sponsor. So when the sponsor then pulled out, the competition was, as an institution, was unable to stand on its own. So let's put that to one side. The second part is that I think this, and you're so right to say, that the fact that ZC is funding it is good to start with, but it's got to be weaned off and become an institution in and of itself, and then ultimately corporate Zimbabwe to jump on it. If it has that organic growth, it will likely last the distance. If it doesn't, we all know how this will go. We've watched the movie before.
Absolutely. So organic growth, that is what we are looking for with the National Premier League. Certainly a good initiative, and we give Zimbabwe Cricket a pat on the back and we say to Zimbabwe, let's rally behind our teams, let's support them, and let's make sure that we've got as many cricketers out there playing, which will of course increase the base of those that are selected for the franchises and in turn increase the base of those that are being selected or at least putting their hands up for selection into the national cricket team. This is ZiFM Sport on a Friday, always topical, always hot, always trending. We'll be giving you updates from the international sports scene a bit later on. If you love your rugby, stay locked because there's a big rugby match in South Africa. Who will be the standout players that can put on the green and gold of South Africa?
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
On to our local sports news roundup now, starting with tennis news, where the manager of Tennis Zimbabwe, Cliff Nokwara, says they are looking at resuming competitions like the club championships to help locally based players get ready for international tournaments. The National Association want to host 3 18 and under international tournaments between November and December, but their emphasis at the moment is to have some form of local competitions in preparation for the upcoming events they want to host. On to rugby news. The Zimbabwe Rugby Union has applied for land in Harare to construct a stadium to be used to host international matches. The audacious project will have ZRU offices, will be done in partnership with association strategic partners. Aaron Jani, ZRU president, said by building its own home rugby stadium, the National Association will significantly save in ground and office rentals. Presently, Zimbabwe has one standard rugby stadium, that's Hartsfield Ground in Bulawayo. For international matches, ZRU has either used Hartsfield or Harare Sports Club. Good luck to them. Fantastic initiative. On to Warriors update. Warriors coach Zdravko Logarosic has not included any home-based players in his squad for the international friendly at Kamuzu Stadium in Blantyre to be held on the 11th of October. Although ZiFM have already sent invitation letters to players who include skipper Knowledge Musona, talisman Kama Billiot, midfielder Marvelous Nakamba and forward Tino Kadewere, the identity of the entire squad will only be unveiled when the coach returns to Harare. He's expected in the country this weekend after spending part of the lockdown with his family in Croatia.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Remember, later on we'll be talking you through the Champions League draw that took place last night. And when we look at the fixtures in the Premier League, we'll be giving you our thoughts on a possible captain's pick when it comes to fantasy football. Yes, fantasy football on ZiFM Sports. So stay tuned. That'll be straight after our play of the day. For now, let's go international, where we're talking rugby. And our Springbok captain, Siya Kolisi, will lead a team in national colours for the first time since lifting the Uefa Cup, as he captains the green side in the Castle Springbok Showdown at Newlands tomorrow. Lucanio Am will lead the gold team under the guidance of Dion Davids, with the green team coached by Mzwandile Stick. Eighth man, Skumbuzo Noche, is pleased to have been selected for the gold team as he wants to fight for a Springbok jersey in the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, it's always honor and a privilege to do something that you love and get paid for something that you love. It was great. Obviously the lungs were burning a bit, and that's all that we obviously wanted as rugby players, but it's always a massive honor to get back onto the rugby pitch and just do something that we love again. To be selected for the box, that's another sort of massive honor within itself, to be back in the mix. I still remember the last time I was in the box mix was in 2018, so it's always a privilege and an honor to be here, and obviously you don't want to take it for granted because you never know, as I've learned, that you never know when it will be your last time.
Z. Okay, now the final lineups were announced ahead of the festival match, but unfortunately Upa Mahoje and Trevor Nyakane have withdrawn. So the green team, you got names such as Frans Steyn, Alton Youngcheese, Dwayne Vermeulen, of course the captain Siya Kolisi, Bongi Monambi, all included in the run-on 15. The gold team will boast luminaries in SA rugby like Lucanio Am, of course their captain, Nizam Kar is there, Skumbuzo Noche, Roscoe Speckman, and of course Stephen Kitchoff. It makes for a very interesting festival, and you want to say that this year we've seen a similar sort of festival run in New Zealand where it was North versus South. This is a similar concept that will ultimately decide who pulls on the Springbok jersey, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And I think South Africa Rugby is working under pressure because they, from the Southern Hemisphere, returned last to action. New Zealand got their competition on the road very quickly, followed by Australia. So South Africa, apart from gradually bringing back franchise rugby and making sure that the Currie Cup is being played, they also have to keep one eye on the Castle Langa Rugby Championship, which is going to be played a bit later on. So they've got to prepare the Springbok side in tandem with the franchises getting rugby going in South Africa. So this game ideally would have been played at the end of the domestic competition, like we saw in New Zealand, where the North Island played the South Island at the end of Super Rugby Aotearoa. But they're having to do theirs now because they're having to run two programs in tandem.
Yeah, and creativity is the name of the game, isn't it, Chris, this year? Because in truth, normally you would see the franchise games be played out and the star performers would then be selected for the national teams. But in this sense, rugby unions have had to be a little bit more creative to ensure that they can get as much game time, yes, but also be able to run their eye over all of the talent that is available in their talent pool.
Definitely, and I think they'll, especially with this particular match, they'll be able to do that. In terms of creativity, SA Rugby, I think, has had to step it up a little bit more in terms of the time frame in which they were working. If you take a look at when sport was allowed to restart, when rugby specifically was allowed to restart, it was a little bit after the rest of the Southern Hemisphere teams were, the Southern Hemisphere countries had actually gone back into training, gone back and run through their domestic competitions. So they were working on a time crunch and creating these competitions and having a chance like this where they get to see all of the potential players, young players, your older veterans as well, all in the same match. I think it's one of the opportunities that they have in order to select the side that will be going into competitions in future.
Now, Mikey, just looking at those team sheets, firstly, does winning matter in all this, or is it more an issue of performance, doing the right things? Secondly, if winning does matter, what do you reckon?
Barry, winning usually does matter, but in this case, I lean heavily towards performance. I think the performances are what are important for those that will be running their eye over the prospective Springboks that will be on show tomorrow afternoon. When it does come, however, to things like the attitude of the players, it's important that they maintain that edge, the desire to win, because that's also critical. You need to carry that over into the national team when you're wearing the green and gold of the Springboks and you're up against teams like the All Blacks, as well as the Wallabies from Australia or the Pumas from Argentina. So the attitude will be important, the performance even more important tomorrow afternoon.
And the Springboks themselves will be looking to create almost a new style or the new way of doing things, the Springbok way. Rassie Erasmus had his way, and so one would be hoping and thinking that going into the Springboks proper, we're going to see the new Springboks, as it were, Chris?
Definitely. We're going to be seeing a new Springboks, as it were. When you have a new coach, he definitely wants to put his stamp on the style of play. He wants specific players to play a specific way. So we're going to be seeing a really revamped side, especially because of that new leadership.
New leadership, new things, new ways in very difficult times. 2020 hasn't been the easiest year, but we all have had to make do with what we have, and South Africa is no exception. It happens this weekend. Green versus gold.
Hi, I'm JC Kriel, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZiFM Sports.
Only DSTV brings you the very best football action. Catch all the action from the most popular league in the world, the English Premier League, with some of the world's biggest stars in Sadio Mane, Harry Kane, Sergio Aguero, and Virgil van Dijk. Catch all the action on the brand new SuperSport Premier League channel on channel 223. We have the world's best football, only on DSTV.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We'll take off in the United Arab Emirates, where Rohit Sharma's fluent 70 and a blistering stand between Kieran Pollard and Hardik Pandya powered Mumbai Indians to a 48-run win over the Kings 11 Punjab in Abu Dhabi. Skipper Rohit struck 3 sixes and 8 fours or 45 balls to lay the foundation for his side's 191 for 4. The innings concluding with a thunderous unbroken partnership of 67 off 3.5 overs between Pollard and Pandya. In France, Novak Djokovic continued his dominant start to the French Open with a ruthless straight sets win over Lithuanian world number 66 Ricardas Berankis in the second round. The world number one won 6-1, 6-2, 6-2, meaning he has lost just 10 games in his first 2 matches. On the ladies' side, Sophia Kenin ran into a spot of bother before reaching the French Open third round with a 3-6, 6-3, 6-2 victory over Anna Bogdan. On court, Simone Matthew Petra Kvitova was more convincing with her 6-3, 6-3 victory over Jasmine Paolini. Former champion Yelena Ostapenko toppled second seed Karolina Pliskova with an emphatic 6-4, 6-2 victory. We'll touch down in the United States, where Miami Heat stars Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo are listed as doubtful for Game 2 of the NBA Finals against the LA Lakers. Dragic has a plantar fascia tear in his left foot, and an MRI revealed a neck strain for Adebayo. Both players left Game 1 with the injuries. Jimmy Butler, who rolled his left ankle in the first half of Game 1, is expected to play in Game 2 in the early hours of tomorrow morning.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
With the major leagues all in play, it's been an exciting past couple of weeks, and it's going to get even more exciting. We're going to be previewing what should be a big weekend in the major leagues a bit later on. But before we get there, just to let you know, news that you probably already know, Robert Lewandowski named Uefa Men's Player of the Year for the 2019-2020 season, beating off competition from Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne as well as Bayern teammate Manuel Neuer. The award was given out at the UEFA Champions League group stage draw, which was held in Geneva yesterday evening. Let's hear from the best player in Europe, Robert Lewandowski.
It's an amazing feeling because, if you work so hard and in the end you get this trophy is something special, and I have to say thank you to my teammates, to my coaches, to all staff, because they work every day very hard to prepare me to do the game, and also to my family, because they support me a lot, and that is for me as well very important.
Z. This award, Chris, hardly a surprise after the season that Robert Lewandowski had. He was head and shoulders ahead of the competition.
Way above the competition. 15 goals in 10 appearances, and he also contributed 6 assists. And even if you look at outside of the Champions League competition itself, he was consistent with the goal scoring, and he was a player that Bayern Munich no doubt could rely on every single match. And just being part of that machine and being such an important cog, definitely well deserved.
While the top 10 looked something like that, Robert Lewandowski, 477 points. Now, his points haul was more than the next 9 players put together. Who are those 9 players? In second place, Kevin De Bruyne, 90 points. Manuel Neuer in third, 66 points. Lionel Messi in fourth, 53 points. He was tied with Neymar. In sixth was Thomas Müller of Bayern Munich, 41 points. Kylian Mbappe was seventh with 39 points. Thiago Alcantara of Bayern, now of Liverpool, 27 points in 8th. Joshua Kimmich, or Joshua Kimmich, as he said himself during the draw last night, 26 points. And Cristiano Ronaldo in 10th place, 25 points. A thoroughly dominant performance, but Robert Lewandowski reflected Barry in the voting. The big question is, can he repeat the levels that he struck last season? Can he guide Bayern Munich to glory in the manner that we saw Die Rotten obliterate the opposition in Germany and on the continent last season?
Look, there's a good chance that he can. He's in a team that's scoring goals, a team that is that attacks a lot, that depends on attack. So he will be close to matching it if he doesn't get to that level. But I think that this might be his last season at that level, because obviously the law of diminishing returns is going to start kicking in. Age is obviously a factor. But right now, I think he's well capable of doing that. Certainly in the Bundesliga, there's a good chance there's enough teams at the bottom of the barrel there that they can harvest goals against. And then in the Champions League, I think it might be a little bit tougher this year because there's some good teams out there.
Well, let's go to the Uefa Champions League draw that was done in tandem with the awards ceremony. Group A, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Salzburg, Lokomotiv Moscow. So the tough test there for Bayern, the defending champions, Chris, will be Atletico Madrid. But that's not a group that will strike any fear whatsoever in Bayern Munich.
Definitely not. Bayern Munich are a team that's in form. They are scoring goals, and there's a good spread of goals coming from Bayern Munich. So definitely not. Atletico Madrid might give them a little bit of competition. They might have some going to do there, but I don't think that they're going to struggle at all in this group.
In Group B, Real Madrid has been paired with Inter Milan and joined by Shakhtar Donetsk and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Inter, Barry, back in the big time, and their big test will be Real Madrid.
It will be, and I think it will be a shake-up between the two of them as to who finishes top of that group. But then again, that's on paper, because don't rule out Borussia Mönchengladbach. They're good for an upset. They're good for getting a result, especially at home. I suspect that they might be the spoiler and might be the best candidates in terms of...
Shakhtar got a very good... their pedigree in this competition, Barry, cannot be discounted. Always in the knockout stages.
No, it can't, and it's largely because of Donetsk and the temperatures. When they start to plummet, it's a very tough place to travel to. So yes, Shakhtar is going to be there or thereabouts. So Group B is not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination, but I fully expect, if the form book is to be believed, Real Madrid and Inter will qualify.
Well, we fully expect Man City to do all the running in Group C, where they're together with Porto, Olympiacos and Marseille. Group D sees Liverpool with a decent enough test in the form of Ajax, Atalanta and Midtjylland. Group E, very nice draw this one, Chris, for Frank Lampard. Sevilla, Krasnodar as well as Reims. Now, he's got no excuses in this group, Frank Lampard, for failing to get out of the group. In fact, if it all goes pear-shaped, this could be his undoing in terms of the Chelsea managerial job.
This is a brilliant group for Chelsea. They shouldn't struggle at all. Just taking a look at that Chelsea squad, Frank Lampard has all his pieces now. He shouldn't struggle in this group. And if Chelsea does struggle in this group, then it's going to be down to the manager himself and his inability to guide this incredible group of players to actually get out of the group.
Right, let's quickly move along to Group G, which has thrown up the most tantalizing prospect of Messi taking on Ronaldo, as Juventus have been drawn together with Barcelona, Dinamo Kiev and Ferencvaros. It means, barring injury or any suspensions, Messi and Ronaldo will square off in at least 2 matches during the group stages of the UEFA Champions League. And then there is Group H, which has PSG, Manchester United, Leipzig and Istanbul Başakşehir. Barry, would that be the group of death, Group H?
Yeah, Group H will be the group of death, because my goodness, there's no gimme apart from Istanbul Başakşehir. All of the games involving Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester United and Leipzig are going to be do or die affairs. Of the 3, I can't even pick 2 that are most likely, because you look at Manchester United and Leipzig, that could go either way. Paris Saint-Germain, I think, might have enough in the tank to do the business. So, that is definitely a very, very, very tough group.
And Chris, that Group G clash between Juve and Barcelona, I mean, the marketing department at UEFA, they must have been rubbing their hands in glee, because this match just sells itself, doesn't it?
It definitely sells itself. It's almost like it was planned that this is how it would work out. So this is definitely a must-watch, and they're going to have some incredible ratings for those matches.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back he is, Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudent. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles at home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
We're in England now. Let's wrap it up with some admin and finish off the Carabao Cup for you. Just give you the notable results this past week. Newport County 1-1 draw. It ended after 90 minutes with Newcastle United. Newcastle progressing courtesy of a 5-4 win on penalties. Manchester City went through on a 3-0 win over Burnley. Everton 4-1 over West Ham United. Manchester United 3-0 over Brighton. Brentford 3-0 over Fulham. And Stoke City prevailing over Aston Villa. The game between Liverpool and Arsenal ended goalless after 90 minutes, went to penalties, and Arsenal won it 5-4 on penalties. Your quarterfinal draw looks like this. Stoke City will take on Tottenham, while Brentford will take on Newcastle. Arsenal take on Manchester City in probably the tie of the quarterfinals, and then Everton will take on Manchester United in another tasty Premiership affair. Mike, just running your eye very quickly over that quarterfinal draw, your thoughts? Well, Tottenham will be very happy to have got Stoke. I think Mourinho wants to bring some silverware to the Tottenham stadium, and he's got a great opportunity. Playing Stoke in the quarterfinals, if they field a half-decent side, they should get over the line. It presents themselves.
Are you sure, Michael, on a cold, windy night on Stoke?
Yeah, well, well, that Stoke, Barry, is a thing of the past. This is the different sort of Stoke, yeah. And so this is actually the perfect time to go to Stoke, because it's not yet winter in the United Kingdom, so it's not going to be too bad. So I fancy Tottenham to get make their way into the semi-finals. Arsenal versus Man City, it's going to be a tricky encounter. We know Pep wants to win every trophy that he plays in, and Arsenal as well. They've got a taste of cup glory. They'll want to continue in their merry ways. And then there's that very fascinating matchup between Everton and Man United, because there's no telling which direction the two teams are heading. Everton looking good. Will they remain good? United looking shaky. Will they remain shaky? This match should be a good indicator.
All right, there's Premier League action this weekend. Chelsea will entertain Crystal Palace. Everton versus Brighton. Leeds United will entertain Manchester City. It's Newcastle versus Burnley. Leicester will take on West Ham United. Southampton take on West Bromwich Albion. Arsenal versus Sheffield United. It's Wolves versus Fulham. And then on Super Sunday, it's Manchester United taking on Tottenham Hotspur, and Aston Villa and Liverpool will wrap up the weekend with that Super Sunday clash. Let's start with Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Chris, you look at those two teams, they've had contrasting fortunes, where Crystal Palace has gotten results where we didn't expect them to. Chelsea have also dropped points where they weren't expected to. It serves up a very interesting London derby, doesn't it?
Very interesting London derby. I think especially for a team like Crystal Palace that, like you said, we've been seeing that they're getting the results where we'd expect them to. They're getting some results we don't expect them to get. Chelsea, a bit patchy there as well. When they have a good game, Chelsea has a really good game, so you never know which side is really going to show up. Frank Lampard's topsy-turvy start to the season, not great, but he's got all the pieces. So maybe this win for them will be down to the individual brilliance of the different players.
All right, Mikey, Manchester United versus Tottenham on Super Sunday. Oh, this one has always been very entertaining as a result of when Jose Mourinho joined Tottenham Hotspur. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has had the wool over him since that time. He goes now back to Old Trafford, old Jose Mourinho, wanting to show and stamp his authority.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are two managers, Barry, that are not too far from criticism. Why? Because their teams have not been convincing over the last 12 months or so, in the case of Jose Mourinho, since he was appointed manager of Tottenham Hotspur. So losing this game means that you increase the media scrutiny. The pundits once again start casting their doubts and start questioning whether you have the ability to challenge the likes of Liverpool and Man City. So this is a game that neither manager can afford to lose. You want to win it just so that, you know what, if it's Ole, he knows that this week they're not talking about me. You know, they're going to be talking about Jose. They're going to be talking about Spurs. And if it's Jose, he knows that, you know what, I win this one. It's going to be all about Ole. It's going to be all about Pogba. It's going to be all about Ed Woodward and the nonsense that's happening at Manchester United. So this is a good one to win, just to keep the media pressure and scrutiny away.
How does it go in your view?
I fancy Manchester United. They've had a good run versus Spurs of late. So I'll go 2-1 Man United.
2-1 Man United. Chris?
I'm not quite convinced. I think United will manage to get a draw here. So 1-0.
1-0. You're going to sit on the fence. I'm going for a Tottenham win. He's going to turn it around. I think it's going to end 2-1 in favor of the Spurs. All right, there's another small matter of fantasy football, guys. Michael, I want your pearls of wisdom. In our fantasy league, you always finish on top of everyone else. So we want your wisdom in terms of a captain's pick this weekend. Who do we go for?
Barry, listen, if I'm to pick a captain, I'm certainly going with Kevin De Bruyne. He's up against Leeds United. Leeds don't exactly give you any opportunities. There'll be nothing like tap-ins in the box. So if Man City are to win this one, they have to be taking a few pops from outside the box. And the man that usually pulls the trigger from the edge of the area is Kevin De Bruyne. He also takes set pieces, sometimes takes the corner kicks as well. So he's got an opportunity to get on the end of stuff, as well as creating goals for Man City, who need a response after their woeful performance the last time out.
There's your pick for ZiFM Sport, Kevin De Bruyne as your captain's pick. And if you've got him in your side, you might want to have a small look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wants it!
Let's get into Spain now with some weekday results to start off. Huesca versus Atletico Madrid ended with a 0-0 draw. Villarreal 3-1 against Alaves. Aiba going down 1-0 against Elche. Real Madrid 1-0 against Real Valladolid. Athletic Club going down against Cadiz 1-0. Sevilla 1-0 against Levante. Celta Vigo with a loss against Barcelona. That was a 3-0 scoreline. Barcelona, speaking of them, they face Sevilla in their third match of the season this Sunday. And this catch is going to see two of the favorites for La Liga to go head-to-head. And last season's runners-up were going to be hosting the Europa League winners at the Camp Nou. Barry, you take a look at that matchup. Barcelona looking really good for money at the moment. Do you see this as, you know, a bit of competition for them, or this is definitely something that they can say is in the bag?
Tough fixture. It's a tough outing. Julen Lopetegui has got Sevilla playing good football, but you've got to say, as you quite rightly point out, Barcelona's purring at the moment. The two outings that they've had, they've created a clutch of chances. They haven't taken all of them, possibly because Ronald Koeman hasn't filled that last piece to his puzzle where he wanted a mainline striker. He got rid of Luis Suarez, of course, who joined Atletico Madrid. And then there's talk of a Memphis Depay or a Lautaro Martinez joining before the transfer window closes. So as soon as that piece is filled, I fully expect that, we could be seeing rugby scorelines against the smaller teams. But this is not a small team by any stretch of the imagination. Going to be an entertaining affair.
It's definitely an entertaining affair. Lots of goals in there. The last three matches played in Catalonia, resulting in a whopping 17 goals. La Liga weekend fixtures: Real Valladolid versus Aiba. Atletico Madrid are at home to Villarreal. Elche will be up against Huesca. Real Sociedad versus Getafe. Valencia versus Real Betis. Osasuna go up against Celta Vigo. Alaves versus Athletic Club. Levante versus Real Madrid. Mike, we've talked about Real Madrid. They don't necessarily have fantastic players at the moment, but they're making a go of it. Against Levante this weekend, how do you see it going?
I expect Real Madrid to win. They may not have invested in new talent, in fresh faces at the Santiago Bernabeu, but they retain a core of very experienced players that form the spine of their team. So Thibaut Courtois in goal, Sergio Ramos at the heart of their defense. He's their captain, he's their leader, he's their talisman. They got the likes of Kroos, Modric, Casemiro, Benzema. So they've still got enough experience and quality in those experienced players to win this one versus Levante. I shouldn't expect Levante to be too much of a problem for Real Madrid.
The rest of the matches, Cadiz versus Granada, and that big one, Barcelona versus Sevilla.
The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Belotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of.
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Franck Ribéry seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful, the best of Italian football on Z.
There's also action in Italy. Atalanta, they entertain Cagliari. Benevento, newly promoted, they play Bologna. Lazio versus Inter Milan, really good matchup, that one. Parma versus Verona. AC Milan versus Spezia. Juventus will play Napoli in the big game of the weekend. Barry Menandi, Andrea Pirlo. It's been good, it's been decent, but it hasn't been swashbuckling.
It hasn't been swashbuckling, but he was never that sort. He was always measured, but very, very talented. I think as his team is just reflecting who he is. It's going to be efficient and it's going to be beautiful on the eye eventually. It hasn't got there yet. It's going to be a tough test.
A tough test indeed versus Napoli, playing very well under Gennaro Gattuso. Perfect start to the season. The other fixtures, Sassuolo versus Crotone. Udinese takes on Roma, and there's one match that has been postponed. It's the clash between Genoa and Torino.
Okay, we're out of time on Fire Friday, but before we go, your key games in Germany in the Bundesliga. Borussia Dortmund take on Freiburg. Stuttgart will entertain Bayer Leverkusen. Leipzig take on Schalke, and Bayern Munich will take on Hertha Berlin. While in France, Paris Saint-Germain take on Angers. Lyon takes on Marseille, while Rennes entertain Stade Reims, of course, boasting the talents of Nyasha Marshall Munetsi in the Reims lineup. Time to go. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on Monday. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.